Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mayor Miller,
Here.
Ms. Cordova is not attending by Zoom. Okay, so she is absent. Mr. Merrick. Ms. Parker. Here. Mr. Rackler.
Here.
Mr. Self.
Here.
Mr. Lopez.
Here.
Mr. Robinson.
Here.
And Mr. Elkins.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum.
Yes.
And I ask everybody to stand, and Councilman Elkins is going to lead us in the invocation, and Councilman Lopez will lead us in the pledges.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening, thanking you for this opportunity that we get to gather around this table and serve our community, God. We ask that you have your hand of guidance over this meeting and the decisions that are made. We thank you so much for that moisture, God. You have blessed these lands tremendously, and we thank you for that. We ask that you watch over our police and fire, God, and EMS, keep them safe as they go out on their calls, God. We love you and we thank you for your son's sacrifice. It's in his name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico as the symbol of perfect friendships among united cultures.
Welcome, everyone. Our first item is public comment. The public has the opportunity to provide comment on subjects regarding city business during the public comment period. Speakers' comments will be limited to 3 minutes unless the mayor and/or councilors request more information. The time limit is given in an effort to allow public input, but also to move the agenda forward in a prompt yet efficient manner. All speakers must sign in at the beginning of the meeting. Topics are limited to six speakers per topic. We have a few today. Our first is Mike Davidson to talk on the drought contingency plan.
This point, I feel like I'm in the classroom standing in the corner over here. Let me point this way. Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Mike Davidson. Tonight on the agenda is reconsideration of drought contingency plan as a potential action item. A base level drought contingency plan was passed at last council meeting. I don't know what's going to be discussed, so I wanted to throw out a few things. I think it would have been beneficial to explain parts of the DCP, and I did have a short presentation prepared for last meeting. It wasn't added to the agenda. Immediately after the last council meeting, we requested a water advisory group meeting to begin implementing refinements based on city council input. We accepted the earliest time slot the city manager could offer. We met and began working on revisions. Some of these revisions include adjusting watering days when applicable to off-peak days based on recommendation from city water department managers. Extending water times from midnight to 8 a.m. based on input from Mr. Rackler, removing tank levels as a public indicator based on input from Mrs. Cordova and Mr. Self. These revisions were made with unanimous support. Tank levels should have been explained. I'm going to use an Eldon type explanation because I love the rowboat and desert island explanations he uses. It's not if your engine is on fire and you have a flat tire, you pull over for help. It's if your engine is on fire or you have a flat tire, you pull over for help. So when that chart showed 81% well fill capacity and a tank level reference below 18 feet, this puts us in a certain stage. That is an either or situation. Giving a second opinion for workers to make decisions, and hopefully in the future add even more indicators like monitoring wells and flow rate analysis, so we avoid jumping to conclusions or making knee-jerk reactions based on one viewpoint. Aquifer conditions, well field conditions, infrastructure, and tank conditions are related yet they are separate and any one of them can fail. Based on feedback from the last council meeting, it was decided to just take tank levels out of the published DCP and let the water technicians and city manager use that information internally. There was also a misunderstanding about wellfield production capacity formula. The explanation suggested that we were on an extreme stage where watering trees and shrubs would be prohibited. That interpretation was incorrect. It can be explained when needed. I won't go into that right now unless y'all ask later, whatever. The general premise is that Portales does not have digital metering in place to precisely measure wellfield output. So there's some understandable hesitation about using estimated numbers to justify strict mandates. The Water Advisory Group is actively refining this policy to present to council. I think it's important to use that process to avoid chasing our tails in a circle. So anyway, I'll answer questions at any time y'all want.
Thanks, Mike.
Right on the money. Mr. Davidson. Thank you. All right, next I have, and hope I don't pronounce this wrong, Corey Snowball. Yes, we can do discuss dumpsters. Please. And for the record, identify yourself.
I'm Corey Snow. I live up on Yucca Hill, and it's been over 2 weeks since my dumpster has been emptied. I have noticed that not only my neighborhood, but tons and tons of other neighborhoods are overflowing. We happen to be on the edge, so there are people from the county also coming in, which is only impacting us worse. But it's going to start ending up next to the dumpster. And I know there are critters out there, and I know there are dogs out there, so it's going to be a big problem. And my husband tried to take some of the stuff down to the convenience center, but that's pretty limited as well. So I just trying to figure out what's going on. It's been over 2 weeks at least.
We'll have Mr. Boyer discuss that in a minute if you can stick around. Okay, thank you. Patrick Lucero, Excel.
Mayor, council members, my name is Patrick Lucero. Thanks for coming again. I just wanted to come back, discuss the outage from last night again. That did impact the substation that we were working on last month. That substation has been energized for 10 days, and within 10 days, we had more buildup from the grain elevator on the insulators and bushings, and with moisture yesterday, it caused a lot of tracking. We had 2 phases fall out, 2 high side pieces fall out, so that caused single phase voltage. So that's what Eldon experienced yesterday. So the crews did come out, they did switch all that load around to a different substation. Anyways, I'm not sure how long the outage was for all the customers that were out, but I think it impacted like 1,600 customers again. I think Excel is going to have to go back to the drawing board on that design to see what we could do to help that problem. The problem we thought we were fixing was not fixed, so we're going to get back to that. And then on another subject, next week we're going to have crews in town, line crews, working on conversions. Once those conversions take place, we are going to have outbound calls to the customers that will be affected by a small outage. I think the outage should last maybe 1 hour, but all the customers will be notified at that point. So any questions on that?
And thank you for that, Patrick. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks.
The last speaker I have on my list is Dwight Bell to speak on water.
So, thank you for my time. My name is Dwight Bell. I am a retired petroleum and environmental business consultant living in the Portales area for about 3.5 years now. And, I'm a 4th generation, actually petroleum and environmental person. Worked in a lot of fields, Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, including the Permian Basin, the Appalachian region, West Virginia, Ohio, Kentucky, doing investigations, site development, drilling, subsequent duties like cementing and logging. But production, I've worked a lot in oil and gas storage fields and also in reclamations and reconditioning storage and fields. So I feel we have an opportunity for a more abundant source of water, a sustainable alternative to the restrictions of perpetual easements and the restrictions of water of the Sentinel landscape and the Aquifer Conservancy. I feel like my family's been in the water production component business for producing the water wells for 60 years, and we in our third generation of that. So I'm pretty experienced. I feel that we can provide enough water for Roosevelt County for the replenishment of the aquifer, as well as the topical applications for agriculture and for permaculture projects to enhance the aquifers to be refilled and also to be able to provide some fresh water for municipal work, waterworks. So now down in El Paso, they have the largest inland desalination plant in North America. They produce about 27.5 million gallons of drinkable water per day. And they also have a chemical material company that works with them for the dissipated solids that they collect those, and they're beneficial. So I feel that we have a sustainable alternative to replenish the aquifer and topical applications for agriculture, permaculture, hydroponics, and aquaponics, future for business with a water plant. So that's my presentation. I've visited about 8 or 9 months ago, same way, visited also with EPCOG. So attempting to bring water to Roosevelt County and the surrounding counties.
Thank you, sir. If you'll make sure you leave your contact information with Mr. Warrior, and maybe we can follow up and get some more details.
Naturally, and if there's anything that I can do to help the city of Portales, then I'll be happy to help.
Appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Our next item on the agenda is minutes of the previous meeting, the regular meeting held on April 15th, 2025.
Make a motion, we approve.
Motion by Mr. Lopez, second by Mr. Merrick. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We have several presentations tonight. First of all, and I'm honored to get to do this. If I could have Mr. Gavin Schultz come forward, please. We are celebrating with Mr. Schultz in recognition of 5 years of his faithful service, outstanding performance, and commitment to excellence for the City of Portales Fire Department. We'd like to present you with a spin for 5 years and the certificate. And thank you very much for your service. Put up with those guys for 5 years, I know. Chief Kathy, we have recognition in a challenge coin presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we're going to honor Michael Newell. Can you come up here, please, sir? He's earned his PFT Challenge Coin. He began his career with us in late December of 2022, attained his firefighter 1 and 2 in August of 23, his EMT basic in January of 24, and then finally his intermediate in March of this year. So we'd like to congratulate him.
Yeah, congratulations. I have three proclamations now I'd like to read. And for those of you, we will present these in a little different manner. I'd like to read them tonight and move forward. Our first proclamation is proclamation for professional municipal clerks week, May 4th through the 10th, 2025. Whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the office of professional municipal clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels, and whereas professional municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. Whereas the professional municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community. Whereas professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the professional municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. Whereas it is appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the professional municipal clerk. Now, therefore, I, Mike Miller, Mayor of Portales, do recognize the week of May 4th through the 10th, 2025 as Professional Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our professional municipal clerks, Daniel Swopes and Melissa Carrillo, and to all professional municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent, dated this 6th day of March, 2025. So congratulations. When you print the other one, we'll sign it and you get it right for us.
Yes.
Our next proclamation is for EMS Week, May 18th through the 24th, 2025. And Chief Kathy, the same thing. We'll get this one, but I'll read it now. May 18th through the 24th, 2025, EMS Week, we care for everyone. EMS Week proclamation to designate the week of May 18th through the 24th, 2025 as Emergency Medical Services Week. Whereas the Portales Fire Department Emergency Medical Services, a vital public service, and personnel are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year. And whereas the members of the Portales Fire Department Emergency Medical Services team engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it's appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of the Portales Fire Department Emergency Medical Service providers by designating Emergency Medical Service Week. Now, therefore, I, Michael G. Mayor, City of Portales, New Mexico, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the week of May 18th through the 24th, 2025 as Emergency Medical Services Week with the theme, We Care for Everyone. I encourage the community to observe this week with appropriate activities, recognition, and appreciation. So, Chief, thank you. And it's very true that the vital services that's provided through that. And I think it's appropriate at the same time now to do a proclamation for Nurses Week. Nurses Week, May 6th through May 12th, 2025. Whereas registered and practical nurses in the United States constitute the nation's largest healthcare profession. And whereas the depth and breadth of the registered and practical nursing professions meet the different and emergency healthcare needs of the American population in a wide range of settings, including the front line of the paramedic. And whereas the American Nurses Association, as the voice for registered and practical nurses in this country, is working to chart a new course for a healthy nation that relies on increasing access to primary and preventative health care and better utilization of all of our nation's nursing resources. And whereas professional nursing is an indispensable component of the safety and quality of care of hospitalized and non-hospitalized patients. And whereas the demand for nursing services will be greater than ever because of the aging American population, emerging health challenges, the continuing expansion of life-sustaining technologies, and the explosive growth of home healthcare services. And where more qualified, registered, and practical nurses are needed in the future to meet the increasing complex needs of healthcare consumers in this community. And whereas the costs, safety, and high-quality healthcare services provided by nurses will be an increasingly important component of the United States healthcare delivery system in the future. And whereas, along with the American Nurses Association, Roosevelt General Hospital has declared May 6th through the 12th as Nurses Week with the theme, The Power of Nurses, the appreciation for nurses' unparalleled impact and their contributions to healthcare. Resolved that I, Mayor Mike Miller, ask that all residents of this community join me in honoring the registered and practical nurses who care for all of us, and be it further resolved that residents of Portales, New Mexico celebrate nurses' accomplishments and efforts to improve healthcare system and show our appreciation for the nation's registered and practical nurses, not just during this week, but at every opportunity throughout the year. Ms. Green, I told you didn't have to say anything, but I think maybe if you would just come up, say a few words, and introduce your chief of nursing. You can be right here.
Okay, all right, I'll do it. All right, first off, Mr. Mayor and council members, thank you all so much for your proclamation. Nurses are the backbone of what we do in healthcare. And when you think about it, we've got lots of different disciplines in healthcare, many different career opportunities, but it's the nurse who spends the most amount of time with our patients. And so that's why I always think that nurses truly are the backbone of what we do in healthcare. And they're not just nurses. I mean, the nursing profession is huge as it is. It requires science and math and critical thinking skills. But also we fill whatever need our patients have. And that's what nurses do. Sometimes they're engineers, sometimes they're housekeepers, sometimes they're EMTs, sometimes they're a friend, a confidant, even a chaplain to our patients. And so we want to honor and celebrate and thank all of our nurses, not just at Roosevelt General Hospital, but in our community and Portales and throughout Roosevelt County. So I want to thank you and doing that with us. I'd like to introduce Joseph Rower. Joseph is our Chief Nursing Officer at RGH. Joseph, would you like to say a word or two?
So thank you very much for the recognition on behalf of the nursing and the nursing profession. We appreciate it for support and recognition for the community. We strive to serve and deliver quality care for the citizens of Portales.
And maybe one more time, a hand for our clerks, our EMTs, and our. Our first discussion item tonight is Portales Country Club reuse water, and I believe Preston, you're going to take that, or?
Well, I've got Jerry Parton, who's a member of the board of directors for the country club. He's going to lead the discussion.
I'm Jerry Parton, board member of Portales Country Club. Longtime resident of Portales, was born here, and served in the community in many different ways over the last 70 years. But the idea that I have tonight with the Portales Country Club is, it seemed like reuse water and golf courses and parks go hand in hand. The country club, as my understanding, is listed as one of the beneficiaries of the permit through the state of Portales, as far as the reuse. And we just want to explore that because we feel like taking water from the aquifer for the golf course may not necessarily be the best use of the aquifer water if we have the ability to provide reuse water from the city. And I'm not saying that it's, you know, it's a mutual benefit. And what we have is a quick PowerPoint about the Portales Country Club, some of the services we have, and maybe clear up some of the perceptions that we have that people may have about the country club. But it was started in 1948. It's a 501c7 nonprofit. Basically, as a nonprofit, you're non-discriminatory, you're open to the public. And you say, well, how can you be open to the public if you're a private club? And basically, anybody's eligible to join. I mean, it's not exclusive. You just have to apply and join and pay the fees just like you would on a municipal golf course. You go in, you sign up, you pay your fee, and you can golf. Okay, and it's just this due structure of the Portales Country Club is different since we don't have a municipal standing behind us to help pay the bills. So we have membership, which provides regular income that we can sustain the course throughout the year. And so that has been the business model since it had begun in 1948. The issue is changing a little bit. I think there can be more of a balance where we can maybe offer both. Some open membership benefits of the country club and what it offers, but also if people like to play golf, but on a limited basis, have access to some of our facilities. And so the idea is okay, how can we provide better service to the Portales in doing that? It's a USGA approved course. We currently have just under 100 members. Our dues are about $140 a month for membership, and then if you have a cart shed or whatever, then you can rent that also. But we've invested, we've had some donations, we're expanded, we have that lighted driving range now, so people can come out in the evening when it's turning dusk or whatever and still practice. We have new golf carts that we just got, and that was in response to say, okay, if we're going to provide some expansion of people walking on wanting to pay for golf, then we need to have more golf carts. We're open to all NMU students since they're not necessarily permanent residential citizens of Portales. Also Cannon Air Force Base, they're always welcome to walk on and just pay for green fees. But we sustain ourselves with membership dues. That's how we sustain ourselves. So we are open to the community. On Wednesday nights during the summer, we have open access to community members that want to play in the Wednesday night scramble. Join in and participate that. And also in April and May of this year, we just basically said, let's just kind of put our feet in the water and say, okay, what would happen if we just open it up to more pay for play type people? And the response has really been pretty good from the community on that. So basically, we would really like to expand that if we can, and find a business way of going about paying the bills and not lose members if we have open pay for play type situation. So then we've done the first tee for the last couple of years of Portales, where we had the kids interested in golf. It's a nationwide program for just recreation facilities, introducing kids to golf and having something for them to do and another activity during the summer months. This is first tee of eastern New Mexico. And so we were happy to do that during the summer. Like I said, we have a lighted driving range that was just installed, and this is a large thank you to Roosevelt County Electric Co-op. They came out, installed the lightings, and did a great work for the country club and improving that and trying to make it a nicer facility for the community. The country club provides free golf to the Portales High School golf team. They come out, they do they use the driving range, they're able to come practice. And so basically it's just opened up to the Portales High School. And it's a way of providing a service to the community through the high school, keeping their program going. Because without Portales Country Club, it'd be really hard to have a high school golf team. And so that's another service we provide, free of service to the community. The country club has 7 main tournaments throughout the year. We're having one this weekend as the first one of the year, and it'll go all the way through September. Plus, there's also tournaments going on through the year for individuals raising funds and are doing something that as a charity, well, they'll want to come in and have a tournament. We will let them use our facilities for their events. Not necessarily free, but it's available for them to do an activity, and it's not necessarily a huge money maker for the country club, but it is a way of getting more activity and giving back to the community. As I mentioned before, we had a special in April, and we also have it open in May for golf to anybody. You don't have to be a member. We would like to have more members, but if you want to try out the golf course and look at it, we're sure welcome to anybody is welcome from the community to use it. So why would this help Portales as far as other than what we've done in the past? Like I said, it's the reuse water and the use of aquifer water, with the limited aquifers and the reuse is a better fit for a country club for irrigation than aquifer. Like I said, Portales has listed the country club as one of the people in the discharge permit. So we're already listed in that. They have the economic stability of your community. I was president of the Portales Chamber of Commerce, president of the Community Development Corporation, president of the Portales Development Corporation. And so I was very involved in economic development. And I can tell you that having a golf course versus not having a golf course is a big deal. And if I can tell you that probably we cannot sustain our golf course dependent solely on aquifer water. We're going to need some help in order to maintain a golf course in Portales. And the only way I can see that happening is access to some reuse water that's more appropriate for irrigation golf courses. So there's economic stability and also the job creation. It's hard to create jobs in a community if the quality of life is not there in the golf course and the country club, where people have those activities and ability to have the social aspects of that. It's very important to maintain the quality of life for a community. Portales High School Golf Program. Like I said, we do that. We have then the promotion of outdoor sports. We also it's vital for Eastern. It gives the students a more recreation and since we've been running the special and the word's been getting out more, it's amazing how many students and younger people have been involved in coming out to the golf course and playing. So with that, what we would like is look at what it would take to extend the reuse water from about 1,000 feet to the property from the reuse system that's already pressurized and get to use some of the water and in exchange for some of the benefits that the country club provides. And there may be other considerations too, and we'd like to hear those and explore those. But it allows us to grow the golfing community. Right now, there is a lot of people that go to Clovis to play. Since we are limited on water, our fairways are a little bit rough, and the rain is really needed to keep our golf course like it is. But and improving, but we can water our greens and tee boxes and very little else unless with the limited water we have. So expecting flush fairways that are flush and green, I would say we can't do that currently, but we would love to be able to do that. And I think with the meeting we had with the Public Works Committee, I believe the water is available. I believe it is there. It's being generated, but it's being put in the Playa Lake right now. So I think the water's there. It's just the will of getting it done and make it moving forward. So I think if we're going to have a Portales High School golf team, that needs to be we need to have a golf course for that. So with that, the proposal that I would like the city council to consider, and I appreciate the time here, is basically I would like to see the city council give its blessing toward the staff and people at the country club, meet with the staff and the employees of the city, develop the parameters and the criteria needed, and then also go to legal, having access to city attorney to help draft a contract. So everything is legal and qualified, and then we move forward with this. And so that is the proposal, is just to explore and define in a little more detail so we can put it in contractual terms with the city of Portales of how we can use the full extent of the discharge permit that the city already has for, and with the country club in need of the reuse water. And also, I believe the city needs a way of getting rid of some reuse water to make the system more stable and more viable, because right now not using it leads to a lot of problems that is very costly. So I think we can have some synergies, and with that, I would stand for any questions.
With that, Preston, you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, I originally just put this on there since I am a member of the country club. And I know that Mr. Mendoza and Mr. Moyer have been really working hard with the discharge permitting with the state. And I know this is a very quick option for them to be able to move that water. We need to be able to move it. Now I know that there have been comments of, well, why would we send the water to a country club when we don't have it going to our parks. I think we at the country club want the water going to the parks. But doing that costs money. And so for us on the country club side, we would be willing to help pay for the 1,000 feet of pipe to get it to us. Because we don't want to put a burden on the city. We just want to be a good partner with the city. And so I think as a private country club, it's viewed upon, well, those are the people who care about quality of life. Those are the affluent people of Portales, and that's just not the case. We have a very large variety of people out there, and we're just members of the community. We just want to extend the life of that course so that we can continue to have a golf course for the high school. And some hopefully promising rumors going around. I've heard that Eastern is looking at putting in their own golf team for the women's side of it. So that's something that they're going to need a place to go practice and have facilities there. And so I think if we can get our golf course into shape, I think it's going to truly be a big impact and benefit to our community.
This is a discussion item, so get questions at this time. We could probably ask that. I think this is probably going to be a continuing discussion. But if you have any questions at this time, this would be the time, if you've got them, to ask them. Mr. Rafford?
Well, I don't know that it's a question. I just want to make two comments for the discussion going forward. I think we do need to move forward trying to use that water. I hate to go to waste. But I do think what you're doing with the April and May needs to be a continuing kind of thing in some way, some fashion. I think the community needs to use the golf course. I've been a member on and off 2 or 3 different times. I'm not currently because I don't play enough golf to justify the cost. And I think if people could pay the $30 to go play, I think that's a positive. I understand that the water's kind of just setting, so, but I think that's a good concession in most part. The other question I had for the committee or the group that's looking at that, I was understanding we couldn't use water out of the plant right now because we're not up to code. So
Currently, we cannot. Correct.
okay, so until we get that fixed, once they empty that pond out there by the softball field, that's the end of
Correct.
life.
It's my understanding and I hate to butt in, but I believe we can use water directly out of the plant. You just can't use it out of the ponds.
No, I think the pond is treated. The pond is good use. It's the actual reuse infrastructure that has fallen out of compliance. Mr. Ackler, I would agree with you. And I visited with the board, the country club board last week, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to do it. So if that does mean opening up to some extent, we would love to have that built into the contract and the language there. And as far as the not being able to use it, that's correct. But once we can and we do get back into compliance, we need to be moving that water. And so I think this is a great start to being able to implement the reuse system into our town.
Well, I know there's multiple reasons that it went out of compliance, but you're the numbers guy. Out of everything we use out of reuse, wasn't it 4%? The numbers roughly back.
That's what Wilson and Company told us, that if we got the golf course and the parks up, it would boost the use of that by 2%. I personally don't believe that, but I'm an accountant. I'm not an engineer. I don't see how that's possible. But our engineers that we hired, Wilson Company, said that there is a plethora of water. We just need to use it. And that was one of their recommendations, was putting it to the golf course.
Any other discussion at this time?
So I guess I know it's a discussion item, but it's still, the thing is, I'd kind of like the feeling whether or not, okay, if we approach staff to help develop a contract to bring back to the city council for your consideration.
Mr. Parton, I think that's something, if we were ever going to move forward, would need to be answered.
That's right.
So I think if there's it's not an action item, but I don't hear any real objection to not trying to move forward and working and seeing what the details would be. I'm not hearing that objection.
Okay.
At this point, but obviously, all those details would have to be worked out before a decision could
Absolutely.
finally be made. So,
but I think, it is the give and take, I think the community needs a golf course, needs a country club and the social activities that go along with that, with the tournaments, the events, just the ability to have that in your community is no small thing. And I appreciate the time. Yes.
Preston kind of brought up my thoughts on this. I think I've been the one that's kind of come out and said that I was opposed to doing this as long as we don't have our parks hooked up to it. And I'm still kind of that opinion. And as long as you guys are not expecting the water to be given to you, if you're willing to pay for that water, I can see it as a source of income to further develop some things and get some money coming back into the city for this. We do have a large source of that water that's currently just going out to Fly Lake at this time, but it's not being utilized. And I'm all for beautifying this city and getting water where it needs to go, as long as it's the reused water. And, I wouldn't be opposed to it as long as the contract is written where it's beneficial to all people. But I would like to see us get our parks on that system that's already there. We just got to tie on in. And, get our parks to where we can water them off of that water before we send it to this country club. That's my opinion.
Just to comment on that, I have no control over the city parks, but I support that your position as far as getting that reused water to the parks. I think that's another area that we can improve our community and make the quality of life and the recreation facilities even more. But necessarily, if one person's ready to move to accomplish, put the pieces together, then the other party is not. I don't know why would be waiting on one in order to get the other done. So if we're ready, if we can get ready and move on it, we don't want to take water away from parks. We don't want that. I think the parks are open to the community and you get absolutely no revenue from your parks. They cost you money. But you get revenue from the country club already, just from the ongoing business. And with that, if we could put the pieces together and use that, we'll do our part. But getting it to the parks, I don't see where we can do that for you. So anyway, that's all I got. Like I said,
Comment.
I just wanted to say thank you for your presentation, and this is what a community is built on. Not everybody's going to be in favor. We have kids that we've worked hard for getting our sports back with our youth. Not everybody has kids that play baseball, softball, all this stuff. So as a community, this is what we have to do. There's people that belong to the country club. I don't, but that doesn't mean that I don't want the country club to succeed, because everything in this community that we do to help our community helps the people in the community stay here and not go someplace else. So we are all fighting for the reuse water, whether it's the parks, the baseball parks, the softball parks, the country club. So we just need to work together, and I'm totally in favor of working together and moving forward on this. But yes, you are, as far as I'm concerned, in that plan of also benefiting from that too. So just a comment. Thank you.
you ready?
Yeah. There seemed to be an understanding that the park and the country club would use the water simultaneously. I think that one of the debates is, or one of the process of the country club is that we won't use the water when the parks need the water. We can store the water, and so it wouldn't be in competition. So I think when the committee meet, they should make that very clear, that the use of water to the country club will not be in competition with the park waters. Because the water can be stored at the country club and used at a time that we want to use it.
Well, we have limited storage right now, but what we're looking at is if we can develop a storage system that would allow us to do that, but it would need to be developed. The idea of being in competition with the parks, I don't see where we would be in competition with the parks. We have some flexibility. We have aquifer water that we can supplement with. If there's no water available, there's no water available. If it needs to go to the parks, let it go to the parks. You know, that's fine. It's just that we have some flexibility. We just want to have access to it when it is available. And there'd be certain times of year where we could use it when you really need to get rid of it. So with that, I think we can keep your system more stable, more vibrant. With the more you have going through it, I think the better your reuse system will be, as far as keeping it fresh and updated. So with that,
I just have one comment, I'll follow up on something that Councilman Merrick said. I think as this moves forward and you're working through that, any kind of agreement, you have to keep in mind the anti-donation clause and what that might, how that might be. We work around that in any way possible. That will be discussed later on. I don't intend for an explanation or anything right now. I just want to bring that up as a point of consideration. So thank you for your presentation tonight, and
well, thank you.
I think before we move into our action items, there's a gentleman sitting in our audience that I feel like I need to introduce. At the last council meeting, we were asked to go out and see if we could under a small purchase agreement to bring an attorney in that could, be available to us and be in our meetings. And so I'd like to introduce Mr. Rick Pointer to the council. Well, hello all. It's greeting him all and assist us as needed up to that small purchase threshold. So welcome and thank you.
Thank you for being here.
You may run for cover.
I'm quick. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm glad to be able to help out.
We thank you for doing this. So, okay, we'll move to our action items. The first item is Ms. Richards will present its approval to accept a donation of $3,000 to Portales Parks Department.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Council and Mayor. I am bringing an action item that I happen to be just the recipient of the person that walked through the foyer at City Hall. So the individual came in and just wanted to thank us for the good work that the Parks crew is doing, and just keeping it nice. And in addition to just, giving kudos to our park team, they wanted to contribute $3,000 to help. So I'm coming today for the approval to accept that so that the Parks Department is able to utilize that in the best way seem fit for the Parks Department.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Mr. Elkins with the motion. Ms. Parker made the second. Does anybody have any questions or further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
The next three items belong to, partly Mr. Warrior, but the first one is reconsideration of resolution 2025-08 and the drought contingency plan. So, Mr. Rackler.
Yes, I asked that this be back on the agenda. To be real honest with everybody, I lost a lot of sleep after our last meeting for a couple of days because I didn't feel comfortable with the way that turned out. I'm just not comfortable with the nuts and bolts of our calculation.
Record, can I stop you for 1 second? I think the first move would be you would need to make a motion as such that having voted in the affirmative, I asked that we would consider the action taken to approve this resolution before we have any discussion. I'm sorry.
Having voted in the affirmative, I would like to bring this back up for discussion.
Is there a second to that motion?
Sure.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second. So now then, the action would be all those in favor of the reconsideration of resolution 2025-08. The yes vote is reconsideration, and no vote is no, and it stays where it's at.
And point of order, I think it's 2/3 vote necessary to pull something back to reconsider.
Okay. All right, that being said. Sure.
Just another point of order, can this be done in a consecutive meeting, or is it supposed to be done tonight?
No, it has to be done in the next meeting preceding the action that was taken. It can be, but it has to be done at the next.
It can't be two meetings. It has to be at the next regular meeting. Or at the same meeting. You can't do it at the same meeting.
So does everybody understand the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
2 nays? Is that correct?
So
Everybody over here, yes? I think that it's a.
I think it might be necessary to do a show of hands, but if there's two, you'd meet your 2/3.
Okay. Mr. Racker, you did vote yes, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the motion passed. And so now we can discuss.
Okay. Back to what brought this on, I just don't feel comfortable with our calculation methods. There was so much. I feel like everybody in the community is doing a good job of conserving, doing everything we're asking them to do. We're watering once a week. We're limiting all kinds of things, and I think we are conserving water as a community. The residential is not really the biggest user, not even the biggest user of our water, it's the second biggest. And ours has gone down in the last year. So I think we're doing the right kind of things. I'd just like for us to wait until we have flow meters and some other things in place where we can get a more exact way of determining where we're at before we, because when we left that meeting, I was under the impression we were going to be on an extreme, no watering, no anything the next day, and that just didn't set well with me. So I think what we're doing now is sufficient until we get better data and a more reliable way to calculate.
Further discussion? Mr. Davidson, you made some points today, this in your 3 minutes. About some adjustments to the plan. This. So, I mean, as the resolution passed, that's the way it was, right? Without bringing it back for an amendment or things like that. You know, I guess under this motion, we could do whatever, and Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, we can table it temporarily until we come back with those new parameters and bring it back from, action at that time.
If I can make a couple of comments.
That's what I'm calling it.
Okay. Well, first of all, I respectfully disagree. I think a motion to reconsider has to be done on the same night.
No, sir.
Or the same meeting.
No, sir.
Okay. That's
It can't go further than the next subsequent meeting.
The next subsequent meeting would require a motion to amend or a motion to rescind. Is what I understand. At any rate, there is no enforcement being made as per city, so nobody's getting their meters pulled. And the whole point of all of this was to get meters, the electronic meters, so that we could have accurate numbers. And as I stated, the well production was not stated correctly. In essence, resting wells, everything else, that's immaterial. What we're looking for is how much water can that field produce? And the answer is 4 million gallons a day. So if you're pumping 3 million gallons per day, which is a pretty good average, you're using 75% of it. It came in stating 87%, which I don't think that was accurate. And that does put it into an extreme level that you can't water plants or shrubs or anything And that's just not the level that we were at. Technically, at the current rate we're using, we would be in what used to be a stage 3, which is no landscape watering, but plants, shrubs, trees. So it is what it is. We have as much water as we have. So we got to decide on how we're gonna deal with it. But there are no mandates being made. And it's in the process of being revised, of which you're a member of both committees. So I don't see why we're not hashing this out in those committees and bringing this to the council for a simple yes or no. So.
Well, I guess maybe that's where the confusion might lie. Is I think what was discussed was what we're bound under without the considerations that you mentioned a couple of times tonight.
Sure.
Sure. I think during our discussion last meeting, we did discuss the fact that this was kind of gonna be a living document, that it would be changed. And we're not experts, the ones that are sitting on that committee, for sure. And we're kind of trying to feel our way through this and get something that works for everybody. So I expect it to be taken back several times and looked at and try to get all of the points that we need covered, addressed in this before we make a resolution that's close to final. And then even then, we may still need to come back and tweak it a little bit at some time or another. But I think there was a little confusion as far as the way it's set up, because we had that tank level monitoring built into that. That is something that the internal people use to kind of know what to do. And so during that discussion in our water committee meeting, we talked about this, leaving that as an internal indicator for them and taking it out of our viewpoint. So there was a lot of good discussion in that, and I think we're still working through some things to get that remedy. And part of that was the fact that our percentages were skewed. But until we get real-time data where we can see what's actually going on out in that well field, it doesn't matter what we put into place, because it's not going to really be enforceable until we know what we're looking at.
Okay. This is literally just a placeholder as we get this into play.
Okay, I guess to me, that's where some of my confusion lies. Based on what we passed at the last meeting, the city should have issued a cease and desist. Because we were at that level. That's kind of the understanding you might have had, Mr. Rackler.
That's my concern, is that we voted on a resolution, which to me, when you say resolution, that means it's in force. Maybe it should have just been a discussion item last time, so we could start that, and then I guess I'm just concerned, because I don't want to be one. Here's the deal: I don't want to be one that breaks the rules. I'm trying to follow whatever we're trying to do, but that next morning, that next Thursday, I wanted to water my lawn, because we, under the current conditions, I could water that one day a week.
Or a garden, correct? Or a garden. The way it was, we couldn't even water a garden, or I just got.
And then I got to thinking about things like the chickens. We got people growing chickens all over town. They take water. Where are we going? When are we? Gardens for food, chickens for food. I don't know where we stop restricting those kind of things. So it just said odd with me that it's a resolution, which means it has to be followed.
And I understand the placeholder deal. I understand the living document. But I think when Mr. Rackler called me, and even I thought about it later, should we have issued a statement the next day that said, don't be doing this because of what we adopted?
That was my understanding, is that we were in emergency stages immediately following that meeting.
Based on the criteria that was presented along with the resolution.
To me, it indicates that it probably needs to go back to the advisory committee, because I don't think the city ever officially. I think the document was put into place, and then the city would have come back and said, we are at this production level. And I don't think that official announcement was ever analyzed or made. The workers thought we were at a 87% level. But I don't think that's the part that has to be official, is what is our production level? How much of the water that we're capable of producing are we using? And there was never an official announcement of how much that would be. At that time, city workers stated they thought it would be 87%. I don't think that was correct.
I think that's my whole agreement with Mr. Rackler. We're approving something that just don't feel comfortable. We're relying on two people to make that judgment, and we're putting the cart before the horse.
Let me ask,
Rick Queen.
Mr. Quainer. Almost said Mr. Quinn.
Thank you.
Sorry. You know, the resolution itself does not even refer to the appendix. It's the appendix is what has that criteria. Okay? As I'm looking at this. You know, the activation, the action, all of that. The resolution itself does not refer to this appendix. Right?
It does in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th paragraph. It says the city of Portales has reviewed the water conservation needs within the city of Portales and developed the attached plan for ongoing voluntary water conservation.
Yeah, I just missed that. I was looking. So.
Well, and read that part again.
Whereas the city of Portales has reviewed the water conservation needs within the city of Portales and developed the attached action plan for ongoing voluntary water conservation and mandatory drought management to conserve water resources and to provide drought management procedures to become applicable when water availability, pumping conditions, temperature, and weather considerations and other factors indicate the need for restriction of water consumption in order to preserve and protect water supplies for essential needs.
And I'm not looked at the resolution. Nor have I looked at the appendix to it, but the voluntary statement gives me some pause. There, because it says voluntary and mandated. And so I'm assuming that the appendix divides up when it becomes voluntary and when it becomes mandatory. Mandated, and it may not, I don't know. But is there one level where you can volunteer, you're asking the citizens to voluntarily conserve water, and another where it changes to mandatory? That would be issued citations based on their inability to follow the mandate.
And I know that we had discussed not policing and citing folks for this. So to me, that would be a voluntary, hey, please conserve. But nobody's requiring this is the way that I would understand that.
That would be.
The requirement came in getting the rates set. That's good. It's going to be self-regulating because set your rate schedule up. The high-end users are going to pay more for it. Therefore, they would self-regulate.
And that makes sense. I live in Farmville, Texas. 2 years ago, they did that with theirs. I left my sprinkler on Tuesday and Thursday. Didn't think anything about it. Forgot to shut it off. Got a $300 bill next. I remembered to turn that switch off.
So. Do we send this back to the committee? And make those adjustments that you suggested?
What Preston just read, I've never heard before. So that wasn't part of the drought contingency.
It's in the resolution.
Okay. So if it were me and feeling the way that y'all are, I would make a motion to rescind it. And then let's just go back to the drawing board and the drought contingency plan and get it the way you want.
That was me, my suggestion.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think I was the one that originally requested this come up. And looking back a year, I was one of the ones that was against this to begin with. But I knew that summer was upon us. People were going to start watering the yards and asking the question, where are we? And so I think that's why we put this through as quickly as we could. But I don't, if we're not going to cite and enforce it, I don't even know the purpose of having it, in my opinion, other than hey, here's what we would really like us to follow. I don't know how we can.
That shouldn't be a resolution.
Correct.
should have teeth, or it don't. call it a- That's my.
We should be increasing the rates or doing the rate.
Well, and I know we are in the process of a rate study to.
Correct.
To implement that, but we're just not there yet.
I have my opinion on this, but I'm gonna ask you a question. The resolution does not have enforcement, correct? An ordinance does.
An ordinance has the force of law. A resolution is resolving to stand behind something.
So,
And so basically, if you're wanting to enforce something, that needs to go into your ordinance under a clause in the ordinance that would say, in the event of restrictions. And then you would follow that up with a resolution that would say when the restrictions will go into effect. But the ordinance would deal with the restrictions and what the ramifications of not following it would be.
Well, I'm the one that brought it up. I'd like to rescind. I make a motion to rescind it and send it back to the.
I'll second.
okay, I have a motion and a second. I think we've had a lot of discussion. I think I'll have the clerk call roll on this.
Okay. Mr. Merrick,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Rackler,
Yes.
Mr. Self,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
and Mr. Elkins.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna send it back to the committee and. Quick as we can. And I think Preston makes some good points. We got summer coming on us, and I think our people, even if we make a suggestion at this point that said, this is what we'd like you to do. We're 1 day a week for 15 minutes or whatever. At some point, we need to give them some direction.
We're still doing it.
Well, yeah, but I think we need to reinforce that.
Because we're still at stage 2.
Yeah, so, okay.
Well, just for clarity, we're still in modified stage 2, which
Right.
is 30 minutes once a week,
Right.
not 30 minutes per station, 30 minutes total.
Oh, really? Dang it. All right, let's move on then. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Mike. Item 2 under this is intent to adopt ordinance number 77 for creation of Public Works Committee. Mr. Moyer.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So everybody knows we have Public Works Committee. We've had these, they've had these meetings forever, but there is no ordinance that actually sets what their duties are, their membership and all those things. So that was one of my things that I wanted to get through before I left. So I have this ordinance.
Okay, and it's only the intent.
The
We're not
only
adopting
intent.
the ordinance tonight.
And I'll stand for any questions.
We'll have an opportunity to review the ordinance, amend the ordinance, or vote it down at the next meeting after it's been duly published.
Okay, need a motion.
Well, is there any discussion, any questions for Mr. Moyer? Okay.
So in both of these that we're gonna be looking at,
Mhm.
we got 2 council members being on each line.
Yes.
My question is, we went to a municipal league meeting. Mike and I were there, he happened to be on planning and zoning committee.
Mhm.
The lawyer at that meeting said that if a council member was on planning and zoning, they would have to recuse themselves from any vote that took place that they had taken part of that meeting. Is this not gonna do the same thing?
I would argue no, Because the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Planning and Zoning Council has a different duty than these advisory committees. Really, the Planning and Zoning Commission, correct me if I'm wrong, actually has, these committees have no actual power. It's my understanding, even from the league, that because planning and zoning, the recommendation was they don't have a council member on there because the council may have to vote on an appeal of a decision that was made by the Planning and Zoning Commission, which then puts, that's why the council member would have to recuse himself. These are advisory committees, and that wouldn't be the same situation.
That's great.
That was my understanding of that. The planning and zoning was quasi judicial and therefore. Council.
Well, then they are decision.
But that's the only one that's.
Right.
No, while he's looking for it, I was under the impression the Water Advisory Committee was a subcommittee of Public Works. So would those two council members be on the Water Advisory Committee by default, or are those two separate committees?
I would say those are two separate committees because Public Works would not only deal with water or wastewater, but streets and other public works infrastructure and issues. Or the Water Advisory Committees.
The way they're written, they're two separate.
Right.
And
Okay.
I'll explain. Unless you want me to explain now for the Water Advisory Committee,
We can wait.
Okay.
That's fine.
I'll explain why I did it that way.
Oh, and senior other question we have. Oh. I'll give you a minute.
The 2-year term thing. Basically, you're gonna let someone be on there 2 years and then they have to rotate off and come back again, or how's that?
That's up to the mayor and council at that point if they want to bring them back after. But I think that 2 years is a good amount of time to be on a committee and then time to, new ideas, new people.
I would suggest the 2 years also has to do with the rotation and the
Council
election
members.
of half this council. So every 2 years, you could have turnover in the council that could affect these committees. And then, like the city manager says, the mayor, as we've done in the past, we just reappoint those people that are still willing to serve when those 2-year term, when those 2 years come up after election.
So do you think there needs to be a restriction on that? If you're willing to go more than 2 years. And they seem to be the most logical choice for it. You're putting a 2-year limitation on it, you're kind of saying that they have to go off for 2 years.
I didn't read in there anywhere where it said that.
Yeah. I don't think that was my initial thought, but I mean, that could
That's
easily
just the
be.
way I took it whenever I read it, because that's the way it hit me.
And it hit me the way I just explained it, we have elections every 2 years. And, things change sometimes in those elections, so we just make it more flow a little better.
I think the general idea with the standing committee is if you do get a new mayor in 2 years, there's probably going to be one of these members coming off this committee. It would give the mayor a chance to put his her brand on the committee.
But do they need to be staggered? Because right now it's Eldon and I, we're on the same side.
Well, and this is with members at large on a 2-year term. The mayor can always appoint the councilman to be on there. So it'll have 3 public members And the 3 public members shall serve for a term of 2 years. Which shall be staggered.
I think the choice that you're talking about, that's the mayor's prerogative with consent, advice and consent of the council. But I don't think it's, I think to your point, it doesn't say it's limited to 1 2-year term. So if that helps address some of your concern with that.
And I know that this is just an intent to adopt, but line 2 says 3 members of the public are chosen as follows, period. But then it says 3 public members shall be residents of the city appointed by the mayor, and then B.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I think that
Oh,
probably
typo.
needs to be an A there, but
Yeah.
this is just the intent, so it doesn't really matter right now.
I mean, and like I said, when this comes back, it can be amended, substituted.
Okay.
Whatever. And those, but it's, if you see those kind of corrections, it'd be better to have it come back that way.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I got it.
Is there any more discussion? What's the pleasure on the intent to adopt ordinance number 774, creation of a public works committee?
Move for approval.
I heard like 3 motions.
All of us.
All of you? All right. We'll give it to Oscar. I think Ms. Parker, you were the second. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. This is an intent, so we can do it by voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, Mr. Moyer is intent to adopt ordinance number 775, creation of a water advisory committee.
All right, Mayor and Council, thank you. So the reason for having this one separate is so that the committee can meet, and I have it 4 times a year so that they can update or look at, how our well field is doing. Did we have upgrades? Do we need to change anything about how we go about conserving water, drought contingency plan, all of those things? So it gives them a little bit more, instead of just, taking a meeting whenever you want to, it's, you're scheduled 4 times a year at certain points and you notice it's in January, and then you have April right before the summer months, and then you have July in the summer months, and then October after we come out of the summer months. So it's set up.
I have a discussion item on that particular issue, but after everybody else has said theirs, if they would cover it. Anybody else have any questions or?
I still think that needs to be a monthly meeting because we are in a water crisis.
Well, that was kind of be my suggestion, is that we say I think we put the quarterly in there at minimum. Quarterly.
Correct. And such other times.
At such other times that the chair or council seemed necessary. That would be able to say monthly or whatever.
And we might possibly word that in a way where it's tied to the level we're at the contingency plan. We're at a level like we are
Well,
now, we need to be monthly.
I'm just saying that I think 2 should say at minimum meetings shall be held. 4 times a year, at minimum. And meetings may be held at any other time at the call of the chair. Sounds good. Which could be bi-weekly. That's my suggestion to that. Any other comments, questions, or discussion? What's the pleasure of the council?
For approval of intent to adopt ordinance number 775, creation of water advisory.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Parker, second by Mr. Elkins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That concludes our action items for this portion of our meeting. We now move to council and staff comments. I'll start with staff. Chief Williams?
No, sir.
Steve? Jenna?
No, sir.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
I don't have anything right now.
Mr. Moore?
All right, let's start off with the bad, and then I got some good things in here. At least I hope they're good things. Garbage. So
Bad.
That's the bad. All the stars aligned about 2 weeks ago, and we were down to zero garbage trucks. They did a great job of getting at least one back up and running and using our boom truck as much as we could. But it was just a rough time. We got 2 trucks up and running now. We have a part coming in, or that came in today, and hopefully we'll have a 3rd truck up and running this week, and we should be back on normal collection. Some of the things that broke, and it's not the actual, engine or tires or things. It's welds broken on the carriage. Lift bar broke, both sets of arms. A lot of the things is people putting heavy stuff in the dumpsters. It creates a lot of wear and tear on our garbage trucks, and that's just and just the age of our garbage truck. So the reallocation of funds was done. We're just awaiting an award letter to purchase another garbage truck, and then next year's budget reflects purchase of another garbage truck. The problem with that is it takes 6 months to build one. So whenever we get that money, we'll order one, and then 6 months later, we probably should get one. But our goal is to keep getting new trucks, probably one every year, and build up a reserve fleet so we don't have these problems. Any questions on that? Real quick.
I just one thing, I was just wondering if it would be possible. I've discussed this with a few community members. There are some places around town that we could possibly set a roll-off when we're in those extreme situations. Until the community hears 4 roll-offs at these locations to help supplement, because some people now are just putting everything beside the dumpsters, and now we've got, like Ms. Noble said earlier, we've got, animals and everything else.
And we did think about that. The problem with that is we cannot, watch the dumpsters. We can't watch those at all times. And so if they're dumping stuff that we can't take, then now we have that problem along with it.
We're not watching what they put in the dumpster.
Yeah, I can put a lead acid battery in mine and nobody knows it now.
Correct.
So what's the difference?
I get it. I just, we could have done that, but we didn't think it was a good idea at the time. So we did not.
Well, I'd like to see us reconsider that, because I think when we're down to 1 truck, people need another option. It just looks like we're just waiting around.
And we have the convenience center too, so.
But not 24/7.
I understand that, but when you're asking a citizen who's paying for.
I understand.
It's one thing to at least tell them they can go a few blocks to throw something away, rather than tell them they have to go to one location. I don't know, it's just something maybe I think we need to explore.
Got it.
Another question on that. Have you looked at any kind of a lease program? Does anybody have any kind of a lease on trash pickups?
I do not know, but I can look at that.
Citizen send me a link to, I think it's BTR, Big Truck Rental. There is a place in El Paso, and they do handle garbage trucks.
Okay.
So maybe we could look at what it would cost us to get into a lease program where they're actually taking care of the maintenance of it, or leasing.
Got it, we can do that.
I was curious, with the funding, if we know we need one. I mean, and we're gonna get funding, is there a reason why we can't get DFA to approve a loan? To get the loan, some money, order the truck, and then get reimbursed, or?
We wouldn't be able to pay that loan off with that grant. The grant is specifically for the purchase, and you can't get a loan to buy a truck and then pay it off with a grant. You would have to just buy another truck.
It sounds like we could probably use 3 trucks, so.
We could use probably 4 or 5.
It seems like we're 1 truck away. We keep talking about a water crisis, but I mean, we're 1 truck away from having a catastrophe on the trash, so. I just hate sitting around, and it's gonna take 6 months to get a truck. I think.
Unfortunately, it makes sense. I know I'm getting this grant.
It does.
Go ahead and order this truck. And I'm gonna sign a grant agreement in 6 months, but you can't do anything until you sign that grant agreement. So.
It does make sense. Doesn't work.
It's good.
I would tell you that the lease situation may be a good idea because of the fact that you might not have a 6 month wait either. They might have folks waiting for the lease.
But our grants require us then to purchase those. The lease program would be something to look at it.
For temporary, yeah.
On their website, they showed the front load, side load. Several different types, so.
Okay.
Question, do we have drivers for these trucks?
We do.
Trucks. So currently we have drivers, but.
Correct.
They have drivers, no trucks.
That's right.
We did trucks, no drivers, now we're drivers, no
And I
trucks.
think we need to continue educating our citizens on what they can put in the dumpsters and what they cannot put in the dumpsters. And I agree with what you're saying, Mr. Rackler, is like putting roll-offs at different locations, but then you have people, we're telling the people now, sorry, we don't have trucks available. Now you're gonna have to put your trash in your car and drive it down. I can see how that's gonna be like really positive, but we just continue to say we're giving you different options. But I think if we continue educating them and saying you can put this in, you cannot put this in, and we do have a convenience center. So I think that's a continual discussion with our citizens.
Okay, Mr. Moyer, continue. You have more bad news or?
I don't think so. Everybody got the email and saw the press release for, we're taking over esports.
Yeah.
So that's a work in progress right now. I'm working with, the superintendent and the current program director, and then we're gonna be advertising that position. So we'll be taking over youth sports for the city. And then, roads. So we just had a pre-meeting today, so we had money left over on North Avenue K. So North Avenue K from 70 to the 70 through 70 to the tracks is going to be getting mill and filled starting in 2 weeks. And then Kilgore from 70 to 3rd will be done right after that, probably starting around June 16th. And then South Avenue K, we have federally directed funds. We have all the award letters, but since it's federal funds, we have to go out for bid. So we're gonna go out for bid on that road. We're gonna try to get all of South Avenue K through the university, at least the University Drive, since that front portion is the worst part. And then I will be sending out something for everybody, posted on Facebook website of all the roads that we're going to be doing starting in August and September. So we should have 20 miles worth of roads that are going to be getting redone. So it'll be all around town. And then railroad. So the sidewalk going across the university, we got capital outlay money for that. So for sidewalks, so we're gonna be, once we get that money and that award letter, we're gonna start that project. So that's what I have for them.
Since Mr. Rackler had to step out, I'll start with Mr. Elkins.
Okay, I'm gonna just kind of follow up with your youth sports topic. Currently, we have the reuse system piped into the softball complex. We still don't use it. So that's disheartening, to say the least. We can get it to the parks, we can have the sprinklers pumped and working, and we still don't use it. Since we are now taking over youth sports, we can play t-ball, coach pitch at the softball field because they don't really hit it to the outfield. But coming up on the soccer and the football, the city doesn't really own a space that is safe for the kids to use. I would highly recommend putting all of our eggs into the softball field. getting the outfields in a usable condition so that you could have football, baseball, soccer, all at one sporting complex. I think that would be a great use of, our funds that we have set aside to help get those outfields into shape to where we're still gonna have to rely on the schools for football and soccer. And they're trying to get rid of it. So I would highly recommend us have a space that we can use. Now, I know that Miss Rowley is going to be very gracious and let us use their facilities, but that's just because we don't have a place to offer it. I would think we as a city, if we're going to take it back over, we should have a place to offer that. That's just my opinion on that one. And I guess that's my only comment for tonight.
Who's in charge of the softball field?
The Roosevelt County Little League handles maintenance. You know, we drag the fields, we water the fields. But the city's ultimately responsible for the maintenance of it. There's just very little happening.
This person went to, he's got about, I don't know how many grandkids playing out there at that place. So him and his wife went to see him play. And they were going to go park at the handicap place. And all of a sudden they hit this hole and that truck and even hit down to where he couldn't get out. And he had to call somebody to go and pull him out. That's how bad that. I'm wondering if somebody's in charge of that, how come they leave a hole that big?
Well, in order to get to the handicap parking, you have to drive into the front or come in by the streets department on the back end. You're having to drive all the way around on a 2-track to get to the handicap.
But there shouldn't be any big holes to that where.
I agree with you, but that's just where it's at right there.
We are redoing the parking lot. That is going to be scheduled for October or November.
So somebody went out there and pulled him out.
Okay.
Big old truck went out there. They had friends. Anyway, that's all I have.
I think we covered the dumpsters enough, but yeah, just like to keep moving forward on that. And if anything I can do to help, Mr. Moyer, love to help. Thank you.
Hate to keep talking about convenience center, but right now those people who are working at the convenience center, they under the gun. They're trying their best to work around construction and tight space. They just don't have no room to move, to maneuver. And so we keep calling it a convenience center. We ought to call it a temporary convenience center until we get it back to convenience. Because it's not convenient at this point. It's not no one fault. It's just construction has interfered. The new building, and I was over there today. It took me, regardless of how much time it took me a long time. But the young man and the young that are working, they're working around the clock to make it a convenience center. But the dice is rolling against them. And so we just need to give them a little bit more break and just, I don't know, just go and say hi, take them some water or something, because they're working their heads off over there.
Yeah, the building is waiting on the permit to get completed and the inspection get done. That's really where we're at. We were at number 41, so that was a couple of weeks ago. I don't know what number we're at now, but until they come down and inspect it, we can't put anything back together.
So the state got to come and inspect it.
Yes, city called us.
Call someone to help us get it inspected.
Well, they got the inspectors in Clover.
Yeah,
That's who has to inspect it.
That's who has to inspect it, but we did that to give them, a place with offices, break room,
Right.
air conditioning, heating, all those things. They're in a refrigerator, all the things that they need out there that
They're working out of
they
the
didn't have.
temporary command center right now.
Correct.
It's just making it inconvenient for the convenience center to have staff.
But we're working on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotta have time. Get all that. Anything else?
That's it.
All right, Mr. Wright.
I don't have anything else. I think I've done damage.
Ms. Parker.
Potholes.
Yes, ma'am.
what is the process? Let's just re-talk that over a little bit, just to remind people what they need to do, because there is a lot of potholes. And we love the rain. We welcome the rain, but unfortunately, when we get moisture in our community, then we get lots of potholes.
Correct.
So,
They can go online and, fill out on the revised form and they can say where the potholes are and we can get them done. The new compound that we have, if you noticed you drive down Main Street, it's not as bad as it normally is. Actually, it's, a lot better. Looked like a war zone after the last rain, but the new compound that we're using actually is holding up pretty well. And it doesn't fall apart in the rain like this stuff we've been using. So hopefully we'll be able to catch up. And by filling potholes with that, we won't have the repeat of potholes anymore. So
you can put one location on a request.
they
or
can
just
just tell us the
have it
street.
on request?
They can do the street if they have in this block of, yeah, absolutely.
And how often do they do that? Are they still doing it like on Fridays?
We do it as needed, well, not as needed. It's pretty much every week.
I'm sorry.
We do it every chance we get, we got other stuff to do around it.
Okay. I know we were on a rotation at one time where they did it like every Friday, so just.
If we have to do
Keep
it,
them coming.
if we have to do it 3 or 4 days a week, then we do it 3 or 4 days a week.
Okay, and it's been a while, thank you. And it's been a while for the lights.
There's a
still.
couple more left and that's it. And it's just getting the electrician on schedule.
What is our current classification on the reuse squad? Where are we at? Class B, class C?
I would have to ask Chris Mendoza, but he had a family thing he had to do today, medical appointment.
I just threw up a quick Google search. Kind of going by a chart here, but it says, you have to have class A to do parks, playgrounds, schoolyards during periods of use. Class A for residential landscape. Class B, you can do food crops, including all edible food crops, golf courses, highway medians, roadside, cemetery. Actually, cemetery, you go to class C.
So from what I understand, and I may be wrong, so don't take this as gospel, but our permit is class A and we can't do anything below that. So if we're not at class A, we can't use it at all. So they would have gone and gotten the permit from the environmental department for class B, then we would, I don't know if we're at class B right now, but we would be able to do class B and below. We wouldn't be able to do class A. So when they went for the permit, they went for class A.
So what would it take to reclassify? Or to go?
That I don't know, but I can ask that question.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that? We're class A, but we can't do anything but class A, or if you're class A.
If we're not class A, we cannot distribute the water.
If you're not up to class A level, you can't use it for class B, C.
Correct.
So
If you're
but
not.
if you are class A and you're up to level, then you can use it for everything under that.
That's not the way I first understood.
But if you're class B, you can't move
To
up
class
to A, no matter how good you get your water.
Because that's what our current discharge permit is set at.
Class A,
Yeah,
yes.
because it's set in class A, you have to meet
Right.
the level for class A, or you can use it for anything.
That's what Chris Mendoza said when we had our meeting with them, is we have to get back into compliance to class 1A before it's used for anything. And so,
But if we reclass down to class B and we ever wanted to, we couldn't use it for anything that was labeled class A.
I would think if you were permitted for class B and you got it to class A, that you could use it for class A.
If you're permitted for class A. You know,
You just have
the environmental department make sure that the.
I can see it going the other way. You're better than the permit, but should reflect that.
Well, you have to re-permit it for class A.
Maybe
Environmental.
It's government.
look into that. We can reclassify it.
well, but our treatment plant is good enough for 1A. Why would we want to go down? Because if we can keep compliance with class 1A,
Whole reason I even looked at that was the fact that if we were at class B, I thought we could be using the water regardless of whether it was at that class A. But apparently if you're not licensed for that discharge of class A, then you can't.
No, if you are licensed for discharge of class A, then it has to be to A standards or it's not safe to discharge.
Right. Okay. I didn't have anything else. We've already discussed everything else I had.
Just real quickly. You know, I mentioned at the last meeting that we did pretty well in capital outlay. And I'm not sure that everybody's where we're at. So I'd like to, you know, just let everybody know what we were funded for, what the governor signed. And, you know, our delegation of 3, I thought did us a very good job. We got $150,000 towards the purchase of a class A fire pumper, which means purchase for equip, which we can use that for equipment for the ones we've got. We got $492,000 for residential street repairs. We got $300,000 towards purchase of a motor grader. We got $200,000 for the Portales Police Department evidence room expansion. And then as Mr. Moyer mentioned, we got $100,000 for Portales pedestrian facility and sidewalk improvements. We got a total of $1.142 million out of this legislature, which for having 3 members of our delegation, I think that's pretty good. And it was the things that, you know, somehow on our list. So I would like to ask staff to draft a letter to each of those members of our delegation, thanking them for their efforts in this past session. And maybe if we continue to thank them, they'll bless us even more next year. So that's all I've got. Our next item is executive session, action to convene in a closed session to discuss matters as provided for under New Mexico statutes relating to purchase, acquisition, or disposal of real property or water rights and relating to limited personnel matters. I need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
second,
I have a motion by Ms. Parker, a second by Mr. Elkins. Ms. Swope, we call roll.
Yes, sir. Mr. Merrick,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Rackler,
yes.
Mr. Self,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Elkins.
Yes.
All in favor?
Oh, yes, we will. First of all, I need a motion to return to regular session.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Parker, second by Mr. Self. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I would like to announce that only those items mentioned in the motion to go into executive session were discussed. No action was taken, but we have one item that does need action.
I'm gonna make a motion that we offer Miss Kimberly Rudd a contract as city attorney for the city of Dallas.
Second,
Motion by Mr. Merrick, and second by Mr. Elkins to offer a contract to Miss Kimberly Rudd as city attorney. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. I just want to make one other announcement that I didn't make during regular session, and that is that we are in the process of doing preliminary interviews with some candidates for city manager. We've done 3. We have another one scheduled this week. We've had a pretty decent pool of applicants, so hopefully we'll be moving forward quickly within that. And with that, we're adjourned.